Welcome to the deep dive. Today, we're going to be tackling token economies,
Ooh, fun.
specifically some simulations you sent over. It's like a virtual sandbox
Yeah.
for testing out different economic forces in the world of crypto,
Right.
which is pretty cool.
Yeah, it's amazing what you can learn by simulating.
Yeah.
These models can help us see the potential consequences of different design choices before launching a real token.
Right.
Almost like running a test flight before sending a rocket into space.
I like that analogy.
Yeah.
Okay, so we've got sources covering three main areas.
Okay.
Bonding curves,
Right.
airdrops,
Right.
and then this simulation, that's like SimCity, but for token economies.
Oh, wow.
I'm already intrigued by how these simulations model things like dynamic token prices, airdrop strategies that sound like they belong on a game show,
Right.
and entire mini economies with resources and agents, even bankruptcies.
It's pretty wild.
Yeah.
They really give us a glimpse into the complexities of these systems.
Yeah.
It's not just theory.
Mhm.
We can actually see how different mechanics might play out
Yeah.
in practice.
Let's start with bonding curves.
Okay.
You've probably heard of supply and demand impacting price,
Sure.
but bonding curves take that relationship
Yeah.
and make it
Yeah, what do they do? Curvy.
Okay.
It's a mathematical formula that links the price of a token to its supply.
Right.
But the shape of the curve determines exactly how that price changes.
Right. And this is where the simulation gets really powerful because it lets you experiment with different types of curves. Linear,
Okay.
exponential,
Got it.
sigmoid.
Yeah.
They all have different implications for how the token might be used and treated.
So, for example, I see in the source that a steeper curve could encourage holding
Okay.
because the price increases rapidly as more tokens are bought.
Yeah.
But a flatter curve
Might encourage more active trading
makes sense.
because the price is less sensitive to changes in supply.
Yeah.
It's almost like choosing the right terrain
Uh-huh.
for the kind of economic activity you want to see.
Exactly.
Oh.
And what's even more fascinating
Yeah.
is that the simulation includes agents,
Okay.
virtual actors who buy and sell tokens based on their own programming.
So we're not just looking at a static curve.
Nope.
We're seeing how these virtual traders react to price changes,
Yeah.
which adds a whole other layer of complexity.
For sure.
Do they panic and sell when the price drops?
Yeah.
Do they try to time the market? It really brings in the human element,
Yeah,
even
right.
if these are just simulated humans.
And for those who want to go even deeper,
Yeah.
the source material also includes a mathematical paper
Oh, cool.
that breaks down the formulas behind everything.
Awesome.
You can really see the nuts and bolts of how these curves work
Wow.
and how they interact with agent behavior.
All right, on to airdrops.
Okay. Now, the basic idea of an airdrop is simple.
Yeah.
You give away free tokens
Uh-huh.
to get people interested in your project.
Sure.
But as I'm learning from these sources,
Yeah.
there's a lot more to it
Oh, yeah.
than just sprinkling tokens from the sky.
Think of an airdrop like a marketing campaign.
Okay.
You need a strategy.
Uh-huh.
Do you want to create hype
Right.
with a big lottery-style giveaway?
Gotcha.
Or do you want to cultivate a loyal community
Yeah.
by rewarding early supporters with a more evenly distributed airdrop?
Okay.
These simulations let you model different approaches
Right.
and see what kind of impact they might have.
And it's not just how many tokens you give away.
Right.
It's how you give them away.
Yeah.
This source talks about something called vesting,
Oh, interesting.
where tokens unlock over time,
Uh-huh.
potentially based on things like the token's price
Right.
or the user's activity.
Vesting can be a really powerful tool.
Yeah.
Imagine getting a small amount of tokens each week. Okay.
But only if you're actively participating in the platform.
Interesting.
It encourages engagement
Uh-huh.
and could even help stabilize the token's price
How so?
by preventing everyone from dumping their tokens all at once.
Ah, I see.
Yeah.
So instead of a one-time sugar rush,
Right.
you get a steady drip of incentives
Exactly.
that keeps people involved.
Uh-huh.
And what's cool is the simulation lets you tweak all these variables.
Oh, wow.
The vesting schedule,
Wow.
the criteria for unlocking tokens,
Mhm.
even the initial distribution method.
That's amazing.
It's like a control panel for designing the perfect airdrop.
Exactly.
Wow.
If you're thinking about launching your own token,
Uh-huh.
this simulation could help you predict
Okay.
how different airdrop choices might impact things,
Yeah.
like price stability,
Gotcha.
community engagement,
Uh-huh.
and even the overall success of your project.
All right, ready to move on to the SimCity simulation.
Let's do it.
This one goes way beyond just tokens and tries to model an entire mini economy with agents, resources, production, consumption.
Got it.
Even bankruptcies.
Oh my gosh.
It's a bit intimidating, but also super exciting.
What I find particularly interesting about this simulation is how it models resources.
Okay.
These resources have limited capacity and regenerate over time, just like natural resources in the real world.
So it's not just an endless supply of digital tokens.
Nope.
There's a built-in scarcity, which makes it a lot more realistic.
For sure.
And forces you to think about things like sustainability and resource management.
Exactly.
Okay.
And the agents in the simulation need these resources to produce goods and services, which they then trade with each other.
Right.
The prices of those goods and services fluctuate based on supply and demand.
Makes sense.
Creating a truly dynamic economic system.
Hold on, I'm picturing a mini civilization
emerging from lines of code.
It's kind of wild, isn't it?
Do these agents have different skills and occupations?
Yes.
Can they specialize?
They can.
In certain areas?
Yeah, the simulation allows for different types of agents with varying abilities and preferences.
Interesting.
Some might be more skilled at producing certain goods, while others might be better at trading.
That makes sense.
And as you mentioned, there's even the possibility of agents going bankrupt.
Wow.
If they make poor decisions or if the market takes a turn for the worse.
That's both fascinating and kind of terrifying.
It is a little bit.
You can see how, even in a simulated world, things can get really complex.
Definitely.
It makes you realize that designing a token economy isn't just about the technology.
No.
It's about understanding human behavior.
Absolutely.
Resource constraints. And the delicate balance of an entire ecosystem.
Absolutely.
And this simulation gives us a way to explore those complexities in a safe environment.
Right.
To experiment with different parameters.
Okay.
And to hopefully learn some valuable lessons that can be applied to the real world.
Welcome back to our deep dive into token economies. I don't know about you, but I'm finding it fascinating to peel back the layers of these simulations and see what makes them tick.
Yeah, I agree.
And you know, it's striking.
What's that?
How these simulations reveal the ripple effects of even seemingly small design choices.
Right.
We were just talking about how tweaking the shape of a bonding curve can lead to completely different outcomes for token price and user behavior.
It's like a butterfly effect for crypto.
It really underscores the point that we're not just playing with numbers here.
Yeah.
We're shaping the incentives that drive actions within these virtual economies.
Right.
And those incentives
can have a huge impact on the system as a whole.
Okay, so we've covered bonding curves and airdrops.
Right.
Both of which focus on the early stages of a token economy. But what happens after those initial tokens are out there?
Yeah, good question.
How do these economies evolve over time?
Right.
That's where the SimCity simulation we've been talking about gets really interesting.
You're right. This simulation takes a much broader view.
Okay.
It's not just about the token itself. It's about simulating a whole mini economy.
Right.
With interacting agents, limited resources, production consumption.
Wow.
All the elements of a real-world economic system.
We touched on resources earlier and how they have limited capacity and regenerate over time in the simulation.
Right.
But I'm curious, what kind of impact does that have on the behavior of the agents?
Yeah.
Does it force them to be more strategic about how they use and acquire resources?
Absolutely. Imagine you're an agent in this simulation.
Okay.
And you need a certain resource to produce your goods.
Right.
If that resource is scarce, you might have to compete with other agents for it.
Right.
Potentially driving up the price.
Makes sense.
Or you might need to find ways to use that resource more efficiently.
Okay.
Perhaps by investing in new technologies or collaborating with other agents.
It suddenly becomes a lot more than just buying and selling tokens.
Right.
The agents have to think about long-term sustainability, resource management, and maybe even cooperation.
Exactly.
It's like they're playing a complex strategy game where the stakes are their economic survival.
That's a great way to put it.
Yeah.
And the beauty of this simulation is that it lets us explore those strategic decisions and their consequences.
Okay.
We can see how different resource management policies might play out, or how the introduction of new technologies could disrupt the existing economic order.
So if you were designing a tokenized ecosystem for, say, a sustainable farming platform, you could use this simulation to model things like land availability, water rights, and the impact of weather patterns.
Interesting.
You could even see how climate change might affect the overall system.
Precisely.
Wow.
And you could experiment with different mechanisms for allocating those resources.
Okay.
Maybe a market-based approach where users buy and sell access.
Gotcha.
Or a more cooperative model where resources are shared based on community needs.
Oh, yeah.
The simulation would let you see how those approaches play out in terms of food production, farmer income, and environmental sustainability.
I'm really starting to grasp the potential of these simulations. They're not just theoretical tools. They can be incredibly practical.
Absolutely.
For anyone designing or participating in a token economy. Yeah. They can help you anticipate challenges, test out different solutions, and make more informed decisions.
Exactly.
So cool.
They're like a flight simulator for token economies.
I like that.
You can try out different maneuvers, push the system to its limits, and hopefully avoid any catastrophic crashes in the real world.
Okay, but let's not forget about the human element. We've talked about agents in the abstract.
Yeah.
But they represent real people making decisions within these systems.
Yes.
How does the simulation account for the fact that people don't always act rationally or predictably?
That's a great question.
Yeah.
And it's one of the things that makes these simulations so fascinating. They can incorporate different levels of agent sophistication, from simple rule-based agents to more complex ones that exhibit learning adaptation.
Wow.
And even emotional responses.
Wow. So some agents might be programmed to be purely profit-driven, while others might prioritize fairness, sustainability, or even altruism.
Exactly.
It creates a much more realistic and dynamic ecosystem.
Right.
And it allows us to study how those different motivations interact and influence the overall system. We can see how cooperation might emerge, even in a competitive environment, or how even well-intentioned agents can unintentionally create negative consequences.
That's true.
And remember how we talked about wealth redistribution in the SimCity simulation? I'm curious to see how that plays out. When you have agents with varying levels of risk tolerance and economic savvy, do the rich agents always stay rich?
Good question.
Or can the system be designed to promote more equitable outcomes?
That's a crucial question.
Yeah.
And one that's relevant not just to simulated economies, but to the real world as well. The simulation allows you to test out different redistribution mechanisms. Like progressive taxation.
Gotcha.
Or universal basic income.
Yeah.
And see how they impact things like income inequality, social mobility, and overall economic growth.
It's like we're using this virtual world to explore different approaches to social and economic policy.
Exactly.
Which is incredibly powerful.
It is.
We can run experiments that would be impossible or unethical to conduct in the real world. And potentially glean valuable insights that can inform policy decisions.
Exactly.
Wow.
And while these simulations can't predict the future perfectly, they can provide a valuable testing ground for new ideas and approaches that can help us better understand the complexities of economic systems, both the good and the bad, and hopefully guide us towards creating more just, sustainable, and thriving societies.
I'm finding all of this so incredibly thought-provoking.
I agree.
It's like we're peering into the future of economics and seeing how technology and human behavior might converge to create entirely new forms of economic organization.
I completely agree.
Wow.
And I think what's most exciting is that we're still in the early stages of exploring these possibilities. The field of token economies is rapidly evolving, and these simulations are giving us a glimpse of what might be possible if we approach these systems with creativity, intention, and a deep understanding of human nature.
Welcome back to the Deep Dive. We've been on quite a journey exploring the world of token economies through these incredible simulations you shared with us.
It's been fun.
We've looked at bonding curve, airdrops, and even that mind-blowing SimCity simulation.
I know, right?
That models an entire mini economy.
It's amazing what you can do with simulations these days.
It is. And as we've delved deeper into these simulations, I keep coming back to one key takeaway.
What's that?
It's not just about the technology.
Right.
It's about the people.
You're right.
These simulations really highlight how crucial it is to consider human behavior when designing a token economy.
Absolutely. We can't assume people will always act rationally or in their own best interest.
Especially in a system with so much complexity and potential for both reward and risk. Traditional economic models often operate on the assumption that everyone is a perfectly rational actor, always striving to maximize their own profit.
Classic Econ 101.
Right, but in reality, people are influenced by a whole range of factors. Emotions, biases, social pressure, even just plain old FOMO.
Totally. And those factors can have a huge impact on how a token economy actually functions.
Right. For example, we talked about how a steep bonding curve might theoretically incentivize holding. But what if people get scared when the price dips and start selling? Even if it's not the most rational move.
That's a great point. And it's something these simulations can help us understand by modeling different types of agents. Some risk-averse, some trend-chasing, some more community-minded. We can get a better sense of how these different motivations might play out in a real-world token economy.
It's like we're running psychological experiments at scale.
I love that analogy.
We can tweak the parameters of the simulation, introduce different incentives or information, and see how those changes affect the behavior of the agents and the overall health of the economy.
Exactly. And as we gather more data and refine these models, we can start to develop design principles that take human psychology into account.
Let's see.
We can create systems that are more resilient to things. Like market manipulation, herd behavior, or even just plain old human error.
It's almost like we're using game mechanics for good.
It is.
We can design token economies that nudge people towards positive behaviors, whether that's contributing to a shared goal, collaborating effectively, or making more sustainable choices.
I love that perspective. And I think it speaks to the incredible potential of this field. We can tap into our understanding of human psychology, combined with the power of blockchain technology, to create economic systems that are not just efficient, but also fair, transparent, and aligned with our values.
It's exciting to think about.
It is.
And as artificial intelligence and machine learning continue to advance, I wonder if we might even see personalized token economies that adapt to individual preferences and goals. Imagine a system that learns what motivates you.
And then tailors its incentives to encourage your best contributions.
That's a fascinating possibility. And it really underscores the idea that we're moving beyond just tokenomics towards something more nuanced. Something we might call token humanics.
Token humanics. I love that. It perfectly captures this shift towards designing token economies that are centered around human well-being, that leverage technology to empower individuals, and that ultimately contribute to a more just and sustainable future.
I couldn't agree more.
And I think it's a future worth striving for.
It is.
Well, that brings us to the end of our deep dive into the fascinating world of token economies. It's been a whirlwind of information and insights.
It has.
And I want to thank you for sharing these amazing sources with us.
It's been my pleasure.
And remember, the future of token economies is not predetermined. It's up to us to shape it with our values.
Our creativity and our commitment to building systems that serve humanity.
Absolutely.
Not just the bottom line.
Couldn't have said it better myself.
That's a great message to leave our listeners with.
It is.
Keep those sources coming.
Please do.
And we'll be back next time to dive into another captivating topic.
Can't wait.
Until then, stay curious.
Stay curious.
And keep exploring.